So if everyone knows where they are, how they fit into the company structure, what their roles are covering, what their teams are in charge of, that was just like a way to roll through as much clarity as we possibly could across teams from the top down.
Yeah, and I think it's easy to say as leaders, oh, people know what we do here. People know what and I'm like, do they? Are you sure? And so I just think I got to just message repeat on that, right? I mean, it's easy to say that as a leader, the team leader, be like, okay, if they do, then how about this? How about for $1 million? You both say at the exact same time, what's everybody's number one focus? And let's see if everybody gets it right. And so, yeah, it may seem somewhat rudimentary, but it is incredibly valuable exercise, and we keep iterating on it. I just got to like nail down on like, it was really based on just an understanding of who we are and what success looks like.
Welcome to the Culture Goodr podcast, a behind-the-shades look at creating and changing culture inside of Goodr sunglasses.
What's up, listeners? Your hosts, Stephen Leese and Sean Tenney here. Taking a little diversion from the previous handful of episodes where we really focus on the brand directive. Now we're going to turn our attention to our yearly focus and how every year for the past 5 years or so, we've picked a focus as a company and the importance of doing that and achieving it. So, Sean, welcome back.
Good to be back. All right, so I thought we could kick this episode off with a quote from Greg over in the ops there. And he said, this company's ability to say they're going to do something and then actually do it is like nothing I've ever seen. And I imagine that comes across as a pretty high compliment to you, huh?
Oh, for sure. What's funny is we ended that last episode talking about Greg in a different context. So it's a
perfect.
Greg heavy session right here. Yeah, I mean, I think he was new to the company at that point, a few months, brought on with a bunch of operations expertise to run our supply chain team. And, you know, I think from the outside, we have the old thing, which is people think we're a party brand, a company, we're a fun brand, right? People think we slam margaritas all day, but we work really, really hard. And so when somebody comes in and is like, oh, yes, check. They make having fun look easy. I for sure take pride in that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, so today let's jump into some of the focuses that have helped us to accomplish all those big things. I know when you've looked at things like this in the past, you know, you'll say, all right, we're going to set all these ambitious goals and then just kind of see where we end up. And then when we go back to like, see where we ended up exactly where we thought we would or beyond, right? It's never really like, oh, we fell short there. We usually cross that finish line.
Yeah, I think that I think setting goals is important from an accountability standpoint. It kind of depends on what your goal is, right? I believe, so every year we pick a focus, and let me gather my thoughts on this. I think the right entry point is to achieve anything, you need to have some type of realistic goals. And one of the amazing things at goodr is our ability to create these rituals. One of the rituals every year is we have a brand focus. And every year, that means for our listeners out there, we say, hey, we're going to focus on one or two things. It can never be more than two. And we are going to work as a company in different contexts to achieve those. And so they're very loosely held. We'll go through them, but it might be working on scalability or working on the company having vision. And so it's really important. And also, setting the thing of we are going to hit this exact number is not a very motivating way to do it, in my opinion. So goals are important. Exact metrics are just, they're there to keep you on track.
Right. Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And the focuses are not like number-based goals so much as they are almost like an experience shift, right? Like we're low in this skill, or we want to create more of this or that. So we just kind of look at where we're at and then set a benchmark for where we want to be.
Yeah, I was defining our brand focus is we started doing it in 2020. It is max 2 topics, and minimum you can focus on is for 6 months, but we usually do it just the calendar year because it's easier. And it's like a thematic goal with a clear objective. Then we back it up by projects and initiatives. So that's how we define it, right? A thematic goal with a clear directive backed up by projects and initiatives.
Awesome. All right. Well, since we've been doing it since 2020, we got a handful here to cover. Let's go back to that first one. What was that one all about, and what were we hoping to accomplish?
Yeah, I think the first one started in 2020, and I think what's important for our listeners to understand is when you first start a company, it was how do you make a product? Then we learn how to make product. Then it's how do you sell the product? And then you realize you have a staff. And like, all right, now we need to cultivate a culture. And then it's just a continuous cycle. Our culture is never set it and forget it. It is adjusting and evolving. And in 2020, we kind of had another inflection point of Nicole on our team led this offsite and just geared at like us just getting clear on who we are. So that's where we got really clear on our mission, our current mission, making sure we're messaging, repeating our values. And we decided to choose, this comes from a book called The Advantage, but we decided to choose a single 1 to 2 focuses. And in 2020, it was space and clarity. Mm-hmm. And really how we would define that is we wanted, space was not outer space. I wish it was, space in our days so we can have more time to do creative thinking, and then physical space, when you're growing quickly, we were living on top of each other. And then clarity is as we keep growing quickly, as we go from 40 to 55 people in the snap of a finger, how do we make sure that everybody here is clear on what we're doing as a brand, who we are, what success looks like in their role? And so that year, 2020, the focus was simple. We wanted space and clarity, and then we built a bunch of things around it over the next year.
Mm-hmm. And can you just give us a sense of like, since we back all these with projects, what were some of the projects that might support either one of those?
Yeah. Well, the first thing was, all right, we rolled out, we've been talking a lot about the brand directive. I would actually say the very V1 of the brand directive, or, maybe it's -1 because, but we kicked it off with our mission. So we exist, give you permission to be unabashedly yourself. Right, making sure we started message repeating that at the top of every single staff meeting. Our values of fun and authenticity. Our three strategic anchors at that time. It was people, product, and marketing. And so it started actually, clarity from a standpoint was we came to this thing like, hey, at the top of every staff meeting, the host is going to say these things so we all are aligned. That was number one. That was basically the 6 months of work before that. And then from there, we did any number of things. I was just looking at the list here. We did a whole initiative on our ecosystem and our roles, making sure that people updated their roles at the company. They knew what they were doing. Every flock had created values for their flock and supporting slippery behaviors. We did what's called areas of focus, which is like just kind of like, hey, here is everything that the team works on. And even all the way through to updating our AMP, creating Mind the Wage Gap. Those are a handful of things that we've talked about in the past that we either leveled up or got brought and came to light because of this focus.
Yeah, so those are all clarity based, the ones you mentioned just there, right? So if everyone knows where they are, how they fit into the company structure, what their roles are covering, what their teams are in charge of, that was just like a way to roll through as much clarity as we possibly could across teams from the top down.
Yeah, and I think it's easy to say as leaders, oh, people know what we do here. People know what and I'm like, do they? Are you sure? And so I just think I got to just message repeat on that, right? I mean, it's easy to say that as a leader, the team leader, be like, okay, if they do, then how about this? How about for $1 million? You both say at the exact same time, what's everybody's number one focus? And let's see if everybody gets it right. And so, yeah, it may seem somewhat rudimentary, but it is incredibly valuable exercise, and we keep iterating on it. I just got to like nail down on like, it was really based in just an understanding of who we are and what success looks like.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it seems, like you say, it seems so simple, right? But maybe if we're not aligned on the simple things, we can't do complex things as well. And it's really important to just start at the beginning.
Yeah, for sure, right? I mean, I think, I love relationship analogies, but if you're on going several dates with a person and you are, over 30 and you haven't talked about whether or not you want kids, you gotta, you don't want to do that on date 1 or 2. I think you can give that a little breather, but I mean, that's a pretty big thing that sometimes people just assume is a given. It's like, cool, if it's a given, then let's align on it quickly. If it's not, then let's talk.
Where's this all going?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm adopting 2 Basset Hounds. No, not yet. Not yet.
You're always just a good afternoon away from having an extra basset hound, huh?
Always. Yeah, I'm on the clock.
Nice. All right. So 2020 was that sort of get set, get the baseline, clarity in space. I think we pushed space. We felt like our clarity is a practice. Space might need a little more time. So 2021 kind of became vision and space, right? How did that start to look?
Correct. And I think what's important, all the initiatives that we talk about, and we have them categorized out, right? So for space and clarity, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14 kind of projects, big projects, initiatives. And so the goal is not, when you say space and clarity, is to have everything figured out. It's to have a destination in mind. So we moved towards it. We came back at the beginning of 2021, and we felt like, hey, I remember doing a talk at the time, there was a punchline. It's like, hey, if you don't understand who we are, what we're doing, then you haven't been listening and I can't help you. And so we felt clarity was great, but we felt this, we didn't achieve space. We kind of really felt days were too crammed, meeting overload. And so coming into year 2, we're like, all right, clarity is a practice. Now it's vision in space. And so then we started working on vision and like, how do we look further in the future? And then we started rolling out a bunch of initiatives for that.
Yeah. So just to kind of like ground people in how we go about this, right? It's over the course of a year, but because we meet regularly, back then it was quarterly, right? Our goodr stocks, you would tend to roll one of these out at one of those and then kind of like reassess at the next one. We go, hey, here's what we were just up to. Here's how we think we did at that. And then kind of here's what we're looking at for in 2021. It was vision, right? Like here's the plan for vision. You just talk through like when you go to put together that kind of presentation, when you're thinking, all right, what is our focus for this year? How do you go from last year to the year ahead?
Oh, it's a great question. Yeah, usually we target a giant, either an all-staff meeting or like a goodr stock employee summit in Q1 to kind of roll this out. And so every year, it's basically, so as I'm working on it, we have the key is to place the date and set the intention. Then I have to, I can't push the talk.
Right.
And man, it is really a combination of, okay, looking backwards, did we say what we were going to? Yes or no. And the thing is, you could say no and be like, yeah, but we don't think it's important anymore and move off it. So that's also a possibility. But so recently I just did one. All right, fundamental excellence, got it. What does the company need right now? And that is kind of the question I start with. I usually, you'll see me kind of farming for this when I'm walking around, just asking people random questions. You're like, oh, Steven's just walking around the office with a salad bowl. And I'm kind of just, I'm listening. And I, I'm in a lot of different meetings. So basically, I'm just kind of hearing, okay, what do I think we need to focus on to advance the brand? And that's really what I'm doing. And then I start asking people, and then I start working on it. And it's not, it is, I have my own process, but it's not any more scientific than that. It is, okay, I'm really in touch with the brand. What do I think is going to help us the most based on what I'm hearing from everybody in this building?
So it starts with listening, is what I just heard.
Yeah. I mean,
amazing.
It's 90% listening.
Yeah, great. Okay, cool. So 21, what you heard was we could use some more vision, like the ability to plan better, get our teams better aligned with whatever we're looking at as a whole. So what's like maybe one core project that we stick behind that to help us get into that alignment?
Well, we did any number of things. We kind of started on a project where we did a flock energy map, kind of understanding when we spend our energy through the year. Let me talk vision, then I'll talk space. This is when we really started kind of talking about, for vision, we are growing, but we weren't scaling. And so the leaders, a bunch of the leaders at the time, in the next goodr stock, they did a whole like growth for scale. That's like so we basically did this whole initiative understanding, okay, we're growing. How do we make sure we're like, because we define scale here as grow with ease. Okay, that's vision, right? Vision is looking there. We also invested in our systems. We did what's a mission control meeting where we're looking at our financials more regularly. And also we created what was PDA, a staff meeting where we're looking at where we do present, debate, align. We present what's going on, debate about it, align. That's actually, I believe, where that quote from Greg came from, was from these all staff meetings. And so we worked down that path, and that's actually our first version of Carl's calendar, where we started laying out our company calendar a full year in advance. It's gotten way more advanced before that, a full year ahead of time, and now it's getting more advanced. And then from a space standpoint, we did things like no meetings on Wednesdays and Fridays. That came out of that came that year. So those are kind of some of the big ones that big things that we did there.
Yeah, definitely. Also, no meetings week, right? Like clearing the decks for an entire week, at least once a year.
Yeah. Yep. We started doing more no meeting weeks, and now we've evolved that into, we have 1 day set aside we still don't have meetings on Wednesdays and Fridays, but we have 1 day set aside for Fuck to Fixed every single Tuesday, where basically it's no meeting so that you can get work done with people. And so, we've evolved that over time, but Yeah, super cool. I think maybe the one keystone thing that's come through there and still exists today is the Vision 321 plan, where we're just using a 3 years out kind of view to paint broadly where we're trying to go. 2 years is the work back, and 1 year gives you total clarity on what your team needs to be up to in the year ahead. What's funny is that was the culmination. What was that word?
Culmination.
Culmination. Thank you. That was the culmination. That actually didn't come out in 2021. That came out at the beginning of 2022.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I created that as I was working on the brand focus talk for 2022, because I was like, oh, okay, how do we take everything we learned and move it forward? And so that is when Vision 321 came alive, and that was kind of the rubber stamp of, got it, vision, boom. But that came actually in T1 or in the beginning of 2022, as we kind of closed the year of space and vision.
Nice. Okay. So on the space theme, somewhere along the line there, you invented the NASA acronym to help us on the scaling side of things. I feel like that was pretty close to the same rollout timeline, but maybe my brain is misremembering there.
Vision 321 and NASA were the exact same talk.
It was great.
Yeah, good. It was, hey, we are closing this year, and as we move forward, we really I wanted the focus to be scale, because we weren't investing from an operations side. We weren't thinking 30 moves. Like we had good vision in a sense. We're really good project managers. We're incredible at setting an initiative and completing it. But how are we solving problems before they show up? Right? And so from a scale standpoint, I'm like, all right, well, I was kind of working with, all right, I know we want to focus on scale. I also had this thing where I didn't think we had enough agility, where we were really great at making plans, but we were not as excited to change quickly, which is also really important, right? Especially is how much we change as a company. I believe I'm always a big, so in there, I was kind of playing with agility and scale. So as I was working this through, I also wanted accountability, because I just think it's important to have accountability. So I had these 3, I had an A, agility, an S, scalability, and an A, accountability. I'm like, oh, I know there's an acronym in here somewhere. And right around that time, I listened to an ops meeting on our planning, and it was clear to me had just launched NetSuite. It's clear to me we had a bunch of data, we just weren't using it correctly. And so I'm like, well, we could be using insights. And I was like, well, we just make up words. So what if I take the I of insights, and our focus for this year is NASA, which is insights, agility, scalability, and accountability. Boom. And we had just been coming off this entire space theme. And so that's how NASA came to be. But really at the core, it was scalability and agility.
Right, for sure. What I love about that, Stephen, is you're still on the clarity point, right? Like, it's giving us a way to all look through the same lens together and just like pass a project checklist and go, yeah, okay, are we using insights? Are we ready to be agile? Is this scalable? How are we holding ourselves accountable, right?
I agree. I think that, space and clarity, vision and space, those were great and they pushed us forward. But as we entered into NASA, we were actually that was the first year where our focus kind of had the how wrapped up in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to use insights, agility, scalability, and accountability to thrust us forward. And
Right.
that was kind of, it's fun for me to do it, but also it really helps everybody here to ground themselves into what to focus on. Because then I go and I create like a definition for everything. But that was something that we kind of started using moving forward after that, of the ability to actually put the how inside what we're focusing on.
Yeah, totally. So like you said, I had forgotten. I feel like it's been around forever, but the Vision 321 came from that. So we were kind of rolling that out over the course of 2022. And that ultimately gives us at least 3 different layers of clarity, right? On all the points. Where are we headed as a brand? Where are we headed as a flock or a herd at that point, I guess, and then as a flock, right? So how is every level of the organization aligning their projects and their focuses behind the one that we're after as a team?
Yeah, exactly. And so for our listeners out there, 2020, clarity, clarity in space, 2022, 2021 vision in space. Beginning of 2023, I recapped those 2 years by creating more clarity with this look of like, we're going to every team that have a vision look ahead, and then committed to saying beginning of every year, I will do a 3-year look. And then that way, so there's, so it's a constant clarity and vision in there. And so, right, like that is how you instill these habits. And then sometimes it goes smashingly to plan. Other times you're like, well, didn't work out. And then, but it's, so we ended 2022 NASA with, kicking off, which was our, what we did last year, which I define as a smash hit, which was fundamental excellence, maybe the most like dialed to this moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think like looking at everything that you created to get us to that point, right, where we were looking at fundamental excellence, there was some moment, I'm guessing a story involving Kelly somehow, that brought you clarity on like what are the fundamentals? What are the fundamental moves here to succeed? And then how did you boil that down to what we ended up rolling out?
It was as we were ending 2022, going into 2023. Sometimes this is my fault. We just out clever ourselves, and this will happen. We out clever ourselves, and if you're not concrete with your language, at times it loses its meaning. That's really it's a very, very important thing, and I was starting to feel that. And so, as I was working on our focus for 2023, I'm like, no, I want it to be simple. And I remember in a meeting talking to the Flock Stars, and Kelly was in there, Mike was there. I'm like, I kind of toyed with simplification, but I'm like, no, I think fundamental excellence. I want it to be way different than anything we've ever done before. And both Mike and Kelly were like, I kind of love fundamental excellence. And I started thinking like, well, how would we define that? And I realized we our fundamentals at goodr, right, a baseball player, like a 5-tool player, and ours are 3. It is communication, professionalism, and vision. And so you see vision showing back up again, right? But and then communications, building a bridge between ourselves and others. We've done podcasts on this. Professionalism is showing up with a sharp axe. And details? Fuck, give it to me, Sean. Professionalism.
What's that?
Professionalism.
Oh, you had it. Showing up with a sharp axe and taking pride in your work.
Yeah, taking pride in your work. And then vision is planning for the future with imagination and wisdom. And so again, it was packaged as fundamental excellence, but it was presented with the how. We are going to work on these 3 things. Then your team, goodr you, and it kind of spread, went into our onboarding. But again, that just started with this belief of, hey, let's stop being too clever. Let's be outstanding at the basics, because at our core, we are outstanding at the basics.
Yeah. I think that's like a perfect way to wrap all that stuff up, because yes, I think at that point we were looking at like 8 pillars of 4, 1 for, 4 for each of our 2 values. And that was kind of stretching us. We're like, oh man, that's clever, but it's too much. It's like too much to remember. So that was like a boiling down of, kind of like a repetition of this same process, right? We try something, we see where it gets us, and we see where it's maybe taking us a little off course. So I think that was your gut called on, like, we got to recorrect here and just simplify and boil it down. And that actually has become a core part of, like you said, all our onboarding, our training, the things that we focus on in mastery. So again, I think it's another layer of clarity on, what does it take to succeed here? Professionalism, vision, communication. These are the basics.
Yeah. And I think what's important for everybody to understand is we're not saying clarity is done. Clarity hopefully becomes a practice. We're not saying vision is done. Hopefully vision becomes a practice. Same thing with fundamental items, right? None of these things should end. Hopefully it is like brushing your teeth or getting good sleep or work, hopefully you've just created the habit that you can go back to. And so that isn't it's not set it and forget it per se. And that is, I think at its core, very important to understand.
Yeah, definitely. And that the practice element is the thing, right? What we're saying is we are proposing a practice we want to take the next year to install, and then we can just keep it going. Then we'll have the momentum of it so that we can add a new one on. But we're not trying to add too many things on or go in too many different directions at once. Taking a year to build it in gives it a chance of actually working and gives us a chance to see how it helped us or not if it didn't.
100%. And I'll get us out of here on this, and then next episode we'll come back and talk about our 2024 focus. So cliffhanger. But the ability to have individual actions achieving big results is real. And if you can kind of have a focus, have departments and teams looking towards that focus, having individual people kind of that focus in mind, you have a bunch of amazing people. And if you have enough smart people moving in the right direction, you can achieve incredible things. And at the core, that is why having a brand focus every year is so important to us.
Totally agreed. All right. Thanks, Stephen. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Until next time, be excellent to each other.